Good morning, friends. Welcome to Harvey Cat Homestead. My name is Sam. So glad that you've tuned in to see what we're doing today. Today's project is a Rabbitry project. I purchased a shade sail not that long ago to put up over the half of the Rabbitry where my grow outs are, where it's not covered by a roof. Each individual hutch has a roof, but there is no large overhead structure to help it stay shaded. So we're gonna ameliorate that today. The shade sail sadly will not work because the trees that I thought would be safe enough to actually hold the thing up are not. My husband vehemently disagrees with me, so that's fine. But what that means is I have a smaller, I was planning on doing this anyway. I was just planning on using this shade structure in the garden instead. But what I'm gonna do, the shade structure that's currently on this cattle panel trellis guy is gonna come down. I'm not sure how well you can tell, but it goes around the entire trellis. So it's doubled up, which means it's larger than is actually needed right there. So I bought another shade cloth that's like the exact same size as the structure that's currently there. So hopefully it will work well. It will not be as shaded because it's not doubled up clearly, but we'll see how this goes. And if I don't think it's going to be safe for the rabbits, I'm not going to do it. But the goal is to balance out who's getting shade because the guys on the other side of the Rabbitry are suffering. So, which is, I will say, I haven't had any trouble in terms of their health and well-being. They're all handling things okay. But the guys in here are the ones that I've struggled with. But to be fair, all of the rabbits that we have lost due to heat have all been pregnancy related as well, or they've been very, very, very young. So that's a risk that comes along with breeding rabbits whenever it's hot. This is the first year I've ever lost any rabbits, and I do attribute a fair bit of that to the fact that we lost power and we did not have fans on them at all for one evening, and Sophie got desperately overheated. Like, I thought she was not going to survive that evening. She did, but she didn't survive long after that. The next time it got hot, like really hot, and she had ice in her cage. She had a fan directly on her. She had plenty of cold water. She hadn't been eating for a couple of days. Like, she was just stressed beyond the point. Like, she had already lost that entire litter. So she was stressed beyond the point of anything reasonable. And I think all of those things compounded. When you're, even as a human, when you experience overheating, handling the heat after that is a lot harder on your body. So, it only makes sense that that's the case with a rabbit as well. So what we're gonna do is, all of that aside, we just wanna make sure that everybody stays as cool as possible. So let me get at it. I'll show you some details up close here in terms of how we're gonna do things. But first off, we're going to begin by taking down what's already there. All right, I'm hoping that this microphone is enough to kind of ameliorate the problem with the fans because I'm not turning them off. I'm prioritizing my bunny's health and well-being. So this is a passion flower vine. This is an excellent, it's a great plant. It's great for pollinators. It's great for natives. It's a good plant. Also, it grows very quickly, which means whenever it makes its way up this trellis, it's going to create an even better situation in terms of staying cool underneath. So we love that guy. The other thing that we've got, so let me just show you how this is attached. These are hog rings. I will show you how I attach them. I have a specific tool to do that. But the reason I'm kind of rushing here in terms of doing this right now is because I want this plant to continue to grow up this trellis, and it will attach to this shade cloth. And I don't want to have to rip it down and it start from scratch over again. So I'm going to grab some tools and I will come back and show you how we are going to be removing these hog rings. All right, I went ahead and grabbed the actual hog ring tool. This is what we're going to use to actually apply the rings when we're replacing our or shade cloth. So you just place the ring. I have some rings out here too. Some of these are going to be a little feisty and a little too hard for me to use. My wrists are wimpy. So you just place it in the tool like that, and then you just squeeze. Ideally, these will they're not going to overlap, they're going to bypass one another. When you're doing cage building, this works best when you're working in corners as opposed to J-clips. But in terms of removing things, we have these handy dandy little metal clippers that my lovely husband got for me from the tool truck at work. So I'm going to zoom in for you so that you can see exactly how these are removed. Okay, so hopefully I can reach this well and you can see. So you're just going to come in, you're going to find only the hog ring. This is going to be bad news if I can't do this. I haven't had a problem with this in the past, but I did use stronger hog rings on this. There, at least got it off of there. Yeah, those are brass. No wonder they're not wanting to cut. Well, that would be how you would do it. Obviously, that wasn't perfect. These cutters, honestly, have never given me trouble with anything, but as I said, my wrists are puny, so. All right, well, it's not attached to the structure anymore. I think what I'm going to have to do is just focus on getting them off, and we'll fool with what's stuck to this later. All right, let me back you up and you'll just get a grand view of what I'm working on. That one actually went great. I should have tried that one in your close-up. That one slung off of there. All right, let's get to it. Yeah, I hope you guys don't mind the view of me from way back like this. These clippers work amazing. Whenever I was initially building my cages for the Rabbitry, I've used them so much. I will soon be building more cages, and I'm going to show you exactly how I use them and how useful they are. Don't mind me in terms of maneuvering through the ladder, because I realize I look precariously perched. I'm not that high up off of the ground. It's not that big of a deal. I never fall, amazingly. I used to be clumsy as a kid. I guess just the amount of time I've spent actually working out has changed the relationship I have with my body. But anyway, I'm very grateful for that, especially when it comes to projects like this, because I may have hurt myself in the past trying to do something like this, but not today, no longer. And I really enjoy doing things like this. So that last little guy didn't want to come off of there. Go figure. Yeah, being stubborn. All right, there we are. Get the ladder out of the way, move this guy. There we go. Okay, I'm second guessing this just a little bit because I want to compare with you guys the quality of what I took down versus what's getting ready to go back up. This is what just came down. This is supposed to be 75% shade cloth. This is also supposed to be 75% shade cloth, and I'm doubting if that's what the case is here. I mean, I wish I had more closely examined this before I got started. I'm quite concerned about the functionality of this thing. I'm gonna put it in place and just kind of tack it up and see what it looks like and determine where to go from there. We may have to pivot once again, such as homesteading. Do you guys see the bunnies? I got some creme de argent babies up top, and they keep coming over and like sticking their little head up. They're like, what just happened? This is so different. What's going on? They're so cute. I'm realizing we also have this actual shade sail that I purchased. it's much more dense. You can see the fibers are much more tightly woven. This may be the option that we end up going with in terms of getting it up there, but the problem is there's only eyelets in the corners, and it's 16 feet long, and it's triangle shaped. And they're not eyelets, they're D-rings. I'm gonna get the little janky one up there, and then we'll determine what to do next. At it. Getting at it. So clearly by this point, I am irritated. I am very frustrated with the fact that I didn't plan well enough ahead to know that this was going to be a problem. I knew it was an option, especially considering I got this thing for sale on Amazon for like $7, but you know, sometimes you have to learn the hard way, and it still goes up. And honestly, in the winter, it'll probably be better because they need a little bit more sunlight. But for now, it is certainly very thin. Yeah, go figure. As soon as I get it on there, that one part kind of falls down. I have to go rearrange it. Yep. I get that set and then immediately have to go back to the other side. Oh, yep. Yep. You know, if you're not doing something 3 or 4 times, are you actually learning something new? Or no, probably not. Anyway, yeah. In the future, I will be more intentional in terms of my purchases of shade cloth. But sometimes you have to learn the hard way, and I am certainly guilty of that, including in this video. As you can see, it's not ideal. I'm not finished attaching it yet, actually. I have to stop. I have to get a screwdriver or something to kind of wedge in and pull the cattle panel back away from the shed just enough for me to get a zip tie underneath it. So I need another tool, so I'm taking another brief break and I'll be back. I will say it was slightly irritating to have to get up underneath this cattle panel, but to be fair, I'm very grateful that it's as stable and as strong as it is. That's another project that Michael helped me with. He's just so good to me. I'm so grateful for all that he helps me with, especially when we're talking upper body strength, because I just don't have it. Jace also helped us with this, our friend that has come and done rabbit sitting for us while we've been traveling. I don't think he was planning on getting put to work whenever we were installing this cattle panel trellis, but that is absolutely what he volunteered for. We have such good friends. We're so blessed. Yeah, here I was trying to save as much of that little plant as I possibly could. I never damaged it. I will say it's been a couple of days since I finished this project, and it doesn't want to grow up into the new trellis quite as well. It's not trellis. It doesn't want to grow into the shade cloth quite as well. I think it's just because it's more tightly woven. But no trouble. And I keep looking at that space at the top left of that, and I feel like I should tighten that, but I don't do that in this video. Okay, let me show you a little bit closer how I actually install these hog rings. Boop, boop, boop. Get it where you can see right here. We're gonna be working right here. We gotta grab a ring. Go ahead and like preemptively get it in your applicator. So it's in there. You get your item where you want it. And then you just squeeze. Quite simple. I use these almost exclusively for cage building. So I really, really love them. Okay, so there's clearly a distinct difference in quality. That is not deep enough shade, which means I am gonna have to figure out a way to get this guy up here or something else. I don't want to ruin this. The only way I have to get it up there is for me to put hog rings through it. And I'd really love to avoid doing that. I didn't realize that was such a low quality piece of material. I really should have let this be another lesson. Don't do what I'm doing because I don't know what I'm doing. Do what I say. Check your stuff before you start a project. I thought I was getting a deal. I was not getting a deal. I was getting a disaster. So I'm going to reassess and I'll get back with you in terms of what I decide to do. Okay, so I think what I'm going to do, and again, this is rabbit safety concerns. I'm going to tack this large shade cloth, this is the shade sail in place just on the corners and hope that that's enough to hold it. I don't think the wind's going to get under it and like pull it or rip it or anything. So I think I'm just going to tack it up there. I may try and use zip ties. That'll do a little bit less damage. You can actually weave a zip tie kind of in between the holes on this part. I don't know. But something must be done. So we will do the thing. I'm gonna go get zip ties. Back in the house again. Yeah, you know, I really don't know why I didn't just bring the entire bag of zip ties out with me. I really should have done that. I knew that I was going to need more. And I knew this was going to be what I ended up having to do. But, you know, I guess that was me hoping that maybe I wouldn't have to. Oh, anybody else do that? You know, think, oh, this is going to be amazing. I'm not going to have to overcomplicate things. And then you get into it and you realize you were wrong. But, you know, hope never stops for me. I always come into something, and I guess that's why I continue to try new things, is I'm constantly like, no, I can do it, it'll be fine. Even though I have to redo it at least 3 or 4 times usually. But that is how we grow. So, and that is certainly how I grew through this whole process, even though I was absolutely disgusted with myself. That's how it goes sometimes. So have grace for yourself. My advice. I think this is going to be fine. I don't think it's going to deal any serious damage to the shade cloth. And I think it's going to function great in terms of keeping it cooler on the other side of the Rabbitry. We do have another plan for this. I may have to just order another one off Amazon, honestly. Hopefully something a bit nicer. That's, you know, an actual shade cloth. That's not a shade sail. But, or we'll just leave the shade sail here and order another shade sail for the other project. I don't know. Either way, I'm going to tack this in place properly so that the wind's not going to sling it around. The zip ties did work quite well. I really prefer to only use hog rings for something that's like a more permanent kind of thing. And initially when I put that first shade cloth up, I was thinking it was going to be permanent, which is why I used hog rings, and it worked great. I've got to fiddle with things. I can't sit still. I've always got to be improving. The optimization sometimes backfires. Anyway, all right, I'm going to go get, again, more zip ties. I don't know why I didn't just bring the whole bag out with me. I'll be back. Yep, I'm quite content to admit when I'm wrong. This was certainly one of those cases. And that is just fine. I do really think that I like the color of this cloth though, because it feels to me like it's a whole lot cooler inside of the Rabbitry every time I go in there now at this point. Oh, that's funny. You see me popping that little bitty zip tie through there. There's a couple of points here where I'm kind of going back and forth. Not just up and down with a ladder, but in and out of the Rabbitry. So I apologize if you can't see very well what I'm doing. I suppose that could be said for the majority of this video, actually, because I'm just in and out and up and down. But you don't necessarily need to know all the tiny details. Look, if you haven't zip tied something, I don't know. I will say there were a couple of points in this where I didn't
didn't get the zip ties in the right orientation, and I kind of had to re-maneuver things, because if you do them backwards, you know, they won't catch. So there are learning curves even with zip ties, I guess. But anyway, I think the rabbits are pretty happy with this. I do think that the lighter color helps it stay cooler. Yeah, I'm tucking that whole big corner back up back there, so it takes a little bit. I'm a little concerned it's going to get kind of dirty, just because I know my rabbits, and especially Calcifer on that lower end there. He's a pea shooter. So hopefully it'll maintain stability. But you know, it could have gone a whole lot worse, to be honest. So I'm not too mad.
Okay, it's finished for today. Let me show you on the inside exactly what the shade is like. Again, fans are going to be loud. It's not the point. It is quite well shaded. It looks like a tint entry or something. It reminds me of like the movie Aladdin. You guys happy in here? It does feel much cooler already. Love that. All right. Okay. So, because this took so doggone long, I'm not going to be able to get to the other shade cloth today. I will probably go ahead and share this just so that you can stay up to date with what I'm doing. I will do a part 2 in terms of showing you what I do with this other shade cloth on the other side of the Rabbitry. Hopefully that will happen in the next few days, because it's getting to be summertime and they need shade. It's getting to be. June 21st was only last week. Actually, I think it was this week. I don't know, either way, doggone. It didn't waste any time getting hot. Oh well, I love the heat. I jokingly, like for my body, I really love the heat, but I jokingly call myself a reptile. I can't get warm in the winter. I don't know what it is. Everybody's like, oh, you can only take off so many clothes. I'm like, you can only put on so many too. If you can't get warm underneath them, it doesn't matter. All right. I'm gonna head inside and get to the rest of my day. I'm very excited. My friend Monica is hosting a cake decorating workshop today at our church. So that's gonna be really fun. And I'll probably put up a little about that. It's probably just gonna be a short or something, but I'm very excited. It's gonna be a really good time. A lot of friends hanging around. So, and Monica's very talented. I love seeing the things that she does. She's very artistic, so. All right, this has been Sam at Harvey Cat Homestead. Thank you for hanging out with me and for tuning in, and really appreciate you. All right, goodbye, friends.